I did not read that many books this year. In fact, I read 16 books, and not all of those were books. Some of those were plays. And in this space, that is not very many. In fact, that is what a lot of people probably do in a month or maybe even a week. But I still think 2025 was a great reading year for me, and I'm going to tell you why right now. Well, I'm going to do the intro music, and then we're... Welcome to Shoulda Books, the podcast about all the books you should have read by now. My name is Jonathan, and today I am making my very first tier list, so wish me luck. I'm probably going to mess up the screen recording in some hilarious type of way, but if you're listening on the audio version, that doesn't matter to you. I'll still probably keep the goofs in, so if you want that full experience, head on over to YouTube. If you're already on YouTube, thank you for watching and for listening today. So, tier list, breaking down everything that I read in 2025, which is not very much. Yeah, I felt weird going into this episode because I wanted to, make a tier list for the last episode, breaking down everything I read this year. And when I actually sat down and I looked at everything that I'd read this year, I realized wasn't that much. I read 16 titles, and I'm saying titles because a lot of those were plays. So I've been in an acting class, shout out Robert DeVonzo Studio in North Hollywood. You guys are amazing. And part of my scene study class for that is doing plays from scenes. And so anytime I would get assigned a scene from a full-length play, we did a lot of one-acts, but anytime we did a full-length, I'm talking about this in the past tense, I'm still in the class. Anytime I get a scene from a full-length play, I seek out the said play and read it. That's what I do. So there's several of those on here, and I really love reading plays. It's not as good, obviously, as going to the theater and actually observing. I flew today from Virginia to Los Angeles, and a little jet lagged. So might be a little goofy here on the big 2025 tier list. So 2025 was... God, it was a hell of a year, wasn't it? Pretty bad year in a lot of ways. Nationally, economically, we've seen some pretty horrendous violence in the last couple of weeks, whether in Rhode Island or Australia or here in Los Angeles. It's fucking sucks. So this year, yeah, I think a lot of us are probably happy to see this year end. But regardless, 2025, reading-wise, the 16 books, I'm going to get back to it. The 16 books that I read. Shall we jump into this tier list? So in the S tier, the top tier, the these are the best. I'm calling those shoulds. This is a should, and that means this is a book that no matter who you are, read the dang book. It's worth it. You should do it. You should do it. That's what's the S tier. The tier below that, what would be the A tier, I'm calling that would. Wow, saying that out loud has some other connotations. WOULD, would. This would be books that I think it would be great if you read them, but if you don't, that's okay. I still highly, highly, highly recommend them. In the middle tier, I've already forgot what those letters would be. The B tier, I guess, B tier. That would be could. You could read it. You don't have to, but you could. And then below that, we've got would not. This is a book that I would say I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it if I was you. I wouldn't read it. And then in the final tier, we're calling that should not. This is a book that under no circumstances should you read. So that is the wow. I did not silence my phone. How embarrassing. So those are the tiers. Those are the criteria. Let's get into it, shall we? Okay. So the first title, number one, we've got Buried Child by Sam Shepard. So this was a play that I did a monologue from. I found this play to be very entrancing and enigmatic in a lot of ways, but also, I don't know, it left me a little bit unsatisfied. And it's hard. I'm just going to make the caveat here of it's hard to judge, and perhaps one should not judge a play based on just reading it, because that's not the form that it's meant to be consumed in. It's meant to be watched. It's meant to be seen at the theater. But that's not what this episode is about. This episode is about ranking shit. So I am going to do that based on the text. I have not seen this play performed, although I would like to. And would I want to perform in it? Maybe. I feel like the monologue went okay. It was an okay start to the year in acting class. So I am going to put Buried Child by Sam Shepard in the could category. This will roll right into the next one, which was the next scene I did was also from Mr. Shepard, and that was True West. So True West, I really enjoyed. Again, a play I have not seen. It's about two brothers. One of them is a Hollywood screenwriter. The other one is kind of a ne'er-do-well, someone who has just been kind of bouncing around the American West and hasn't really kept a job. And anyway, they reconnect at their mother's home that the screenwriter brother is house-sitting and start to work on a screenplay together. And so anyway, the production that I wish that I could have seen was the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman and John C. Reilly, two of my favorite actors, R.I.P. Phil. They would switch off on who was playing what each night. So like one night, Philip Seymour Hoffman would be one brother, and the next night, the John C. Reilly would be the other brother, and then they would switch. And I think that is so cool. And I think this play is so cool. I think it has so much to say about masculinity and the myth of the American West and what it, like, how that has been a driving force in the lives of so many men, and how full of bull crap it is, and kind of critiquing it and telling a really tight, also very funny story. So I really liked it. I would put this in the wood category. So up next is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This was a book that I read for this podcast, but in its previous iteration over at Try Guys. If you want to check out that episode, you can subscribe to their subscription service and find the episode there. I think it's still there. So I liked this book overall. It's certainly marred by some, casual and not so casual racism that just feels very off-putting. You could make the argument that it's like, oh, this is what the character thinks, but the character is so closely tied to Plath that you're like, I think that's actually just what she thinks. So that is definitely a huge, huge knock against it. The first half of it, I really enjoyed. It's really funny. It's so much funnier than I thought it was going to be. The second half, once she kind of starts devolving into a mental health crisis, for obvious reasons, becomes less fun. So I think this book is an important book for a lot of reasons. I think that one, it's documenting a time, like it's basically like right before the like second wave feminism in the 60s really took off, and was kind of one of, along with Plath's collections of poetry, like some of the guiding texts of that. And so I think it's really important from that standpoint. I think that it also documents like what it was like to try to get mental health care in the United States in the 50s, especially if you were a woman, and how difficult that was and how difficult that still remains. And so I think it's important from that perspective as well. I think that it certainly like is an influential text in a lot of ways. And reading it now, you can see, oh, wow, this has inspired so many other books that either I love or don't love, but you can't deny its like effect on the culture. So The Bell Jar, I would put that, all things considered, I would put that as a wood. Okay, next up, we've got another play. This is The Pillowman by Martin McDonagh. So I did a scene from this for class. I'm going to keep saying that a lot. But I enjoyed doing the scene. Really did not enjoy reading the play. It's so brutal and involves violence towards children in a way that I just did not enjoy. So it's about two brothers, hello again, and they live in a totalitarian state, And one of them is a writer, and he writes short stories. And the other one has special needs, and the first brother takes care of him. So one day, basically the secret police bring in the writer brother, and they've arrested him ostensibly because of the stories that he's been writing. And so there's some like extended interrogation scenes, and so a story starts to unwind from there. That is interesting, but man, is it brutal. And again, it would be interesting to see it performed. I don't really want to see it performed at this point. I like some of McDonagh's work. I think he's an interesting but flawed writer in a lot of ways. I think his most recent movie, The Banshees of Inisherin, was great. Really, really enjoyed that movie. I would put this in the would not. That's what I would say. All right. Next up, we've got Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the should category. Just going to do it. It's a post-apocalyptic story about a young woman who has to leave her home and find a new life, a new shelter when her town is attacked. It was written in the early 90s. It was set in basically an imagined 2020s in Southern California. And god damn if she did not get a lot of things right, especially in regards to climate catastrophe and late capitalism. It is spooky how accurate it is, and it's also just a really gripping narrative. It's the first in a series of two, a duology, I believe they call it, a duology. I haven't read the second one yet because this book is very brutal. There's a lot of brutal books on this list, huh? Look, 2025 was a tough year. Maybe that should bump it down to the wood category because just for like trigger warnings, it's, extremely, extremely violent and disturbing. But I'm going to leave it on the should category. I think we live in violent, disturbing times, and literature that isn't afraid to look away from that, I think, is important. So, Parable of the Sower, first should book. It feels weird to say should and not shoulda books, but whatever. So next up, we've got The Sirens Call by Chris Hayes. This is the first nonfiction on the list, and I'm trying to read more nonfiction. I didn't end up really doing that this year, but then again, I didn't really end up reading as much as I wanted to this year. So, it all evens out. Is that the phrase I'm looking for? So The Sirens Call is basically about the attention economy and how attention is the most valuable resource that there is right now, and that's why everyone is competing for it. The author, who is an MSNBC pundit, was on an episode of Know Your Enemy, which is a podcast that I really enjoy. I bought the book. I read the book. I realized that pretty much all the points that the book is making were made on the podcast. So I would check that podcast out. And if you're looking for a book on the subject, I would much more recommend Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman, which Chris Hayes quotes extensively from. Okay, so where do I put it? I would put it on the could, just because the subject matter is interesting. I think it's not a bad book. I mean, it feels like a book that was written by someone who's very busy, and this is like a side gig for them. I don't know if a ghostwriter was involved. I'm not saying that. I'm not. But it is fascinating. I do think those are important conversations to have. I certainly can talk about it till I'm blue in the face. But if you miss this one, it's not a big deal. Okay, next up is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel García Márquez. This was yet another shoulda book from the Try Guys months, from the Try Guys era. This one's tough. This one is tough because Márquez is just an incredible lyricist, I would say. And I use that word intentionally because his writing feels so lyrical. It feels like someone telling you a story and like just the best storyteller that you've ever encountered sitting down with you and just like laying out this incredible tale. And so it's about kind of this love triangle in Colombia in the Oh gosh, what was the time period? Oh man, I think it was the like early 20th century. I could be wrong about that. Let me know in the comments. It's been a minute since I read it. It was this year, but been a long year. So we have Florentino, who is this guy who kind of has his head in the clouds and is this super, romantic, and he's in love with this woman named Fermina, and he's like, I will, wait as long as I have to. I will do everything I have to get her love someday. But meanwhile, she goes off and she marries this rich doctor named Urbino and ends up having a life with him. And meanwhile, Florentino just carries the torch for years. There is a lot of beauty in this book, but there is also something that is so vile and disturbing and just wrong that like it really kind of ripped the rug out from under me, which I do think is what Márquez is doing. I do think to a certain extent he is setting up Florentino to be like, to make you root for him and then showing you like, actually, no, this guy's a monster and he's been a monster the whole time, but maybe you missed it because you were so caught up in his like romantic notions of everything. But I'm going to show you that he's actually a monster. And so like, I respect that, but the way that he goes about it, doing that and pulling that rug out from under you is like just disgusting. And it's in a very kind of like Lolita type way. Like that's the vibe of what's going on. So it's like really hard for me to, give a full-fledged endorsement. I think his style of writing, again, is like just beautiful. I am going to put this on the could right down the middle. If you want to get the Márquez experience, but don't want to mess with that content, check out 100 Years of Solitude, which overall I think is also just a better book. But man, I don't know, man. There's like Cholera, Love in the Time of Cholera does. Do I want to move this to wood? You know what? I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it at could. So next up, another play. This one is Our House by Theresa Rebeck. Again, did a monologue from this one. You've kind of got two storylines going on where you've got this house of roommates who are not getting along and they're fighting over many things, including the television remote. And then simultaneously, you have the palace intrigue of a cable news network and all of the kind of machinations that are going on behind the scenes relating to ratings and advertisers and attention. And this was written, I believe, in the late 2000s, 2009, I think is when it came out. And the original production starred a young Jeremy Strong. So, man, wish I could have seen that. But I find this to be an interesting transitionary fossil because it is post 9/11. It's it's the tail end of the Bush era, the start of the Obama era. It's starting to like look ahead at where news and like fake news is going, but it's not there yet. You can start to see the seeds of like, oh, okay, she was already on the wavelength of like entertainment kind of taking over everything and leading to terrible results. I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I thought the monologue was really fun. Is it required reading? I mean, is any of this required? None of this is required, but where am I going to put this? I think, I'll put this one in the wood category. Why not? All right. Fahrenheit 451 did this one for the podcast. Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic for a reason. Bradbury predicted a lot of things correctly. It's a story about a world where no one reads books, which I don't want to see happen. That's why we're all here, right? So I thought it was good. It didn't like blow me away. I think that I found his writing style to be trying a little too hard in places. And it's like, bro, you can relax a little bit. You don't, not every sentence has to be, a home run or, You don't have to pirouette with every sentence. You don't have to do what I'm doing right now every sentence. So this is a book, it's assigned in school for a reason. I'm glad that I read it. I'm going to put it on the wood category. Okay, so we've got a couple, podcast books in a row here. The next one is another one I did on the old Shoulda. This was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, which I somehow had never read until this year. And wow, what an entertaining book. I tore through that in, I don't know, 2 days, something like that, which is rare for me. I mean, if you can't tell from the quantity, if you can't tell from the quantity of books that I've read this year, I'm pretty slow. I am a slow reader. So the fact that I tore through this that quickly speaks to just how gripping, engaging it was. I mean, I'd seen the movie years ago when it came out. I knew the story. It's just a solid YA thriller, and it does have a lot to say about entertainment and about the use of hunger as a weapon, which I think is extremely relevant. When we look at things like the genocide in Gaza, and how hunger has been used in that, like how hunger is used as a weapon of war. Like, this book speaks to that, and in ways that I don't even know if Suzanne Collins was aware of how relevant that would become. You know what I mean? So, it's fantastic. I'm gonna put it on the should. Fuck it, why not? I'm gonna put that on the should. That's a should. All right, we got two shoulds. All right, so next up, this is the last book that I did over on the old podcast. This is 1984 by George Orwell. And I'm going to go ahead. And for me, I'm saying this is a book you should read because it's just so relevant. Like, it's just so relevant between the newspeak, between memory hole, between, 2 and 2 is 5, and reality being controlled, like the idea that you can control reality and manipulate it, and like, it's just, if you're alive right now, you should read 1984 because it will help you make sense of it. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts, you can go find that other episode. But you should read it. That's the hill that I'm, well, hopefully not dying, but that's the hill that I'm on. So reading 1984, I got on a bit of an Orwell kick. And so the next book is a nonfiction book by Orwell called Homage to Catalonia. So this was written in 1937, I believe. I don't have these dates in front of me, so if I'm getting them wrong, let me know, but be nice about it, okay? Can we do that? Okay. So Homage to Catalonia, it is Orwell's account of going to Spain to fight in the Spanish Civil War on the side of the Spanish government fighting against the fascists. So he's fighting against General Franco and the fascist forces who are being backed by Hitler and Mussolini. And this was what radicalized Orwell. Like, he doesn't really come out and say it, but I think the reason why he did it was because he wanted a good story and he wanted some adventure. I think that's kind of why he signed up to go do it. I think he was starting to get a little more politically conscious, and so maybe that was the reason he told people, but like, that's just the vibe that I get. Regardless, his experience there completely altered him. This book is a great case study in how the left can be its own worst enemy and how the factions within it end up fighting each other just as much as they fight against the right. And so I think it's a good cautionary tale. I would put this one, because the other thing too is that like large swaths of this book are actually pretty boring. I gotta be honest with you. It's like I would say maybe 30% of the book is like really, really fascinating. And especially when he's like talking about being in combat, he renders those sequences very well. The rest of the time, he's just kind of sitting around. When he's making political observations, those are interesting, but a lot of times he's like just talking about the mundanity, is that the word? The mundaneness, the banality of existing on the front lines and how boring it is. And it leads to some boring swaths. So all that to say, as much as I love the ideas of it and what it has to teach us, I'm actually going to put it in the could category. So next up is another play. I did not perform anything from this. I heard Oscar Isaac talk about it on an episode of Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso. Great podcast. You should check it out. And he did a production of this several years ago. It's called The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window by Lorraine Hansberry. I need to see this play performed because it's written in such a dense way. And there's so much scene direction within the dialogue that like it is hard to read sometimes. So like, I think I loved it, but I need to see it performed. But it was written in the 60s. It's about a young couple, or well, the husband is like starting to not be so young anymore, and there's a bit of an age gap, but not like a weird one, with his wife who's like in her 20s. She's trying to be an actress. He doesn't really know what his thing is. He keeps dabbling in different things and keeps failing at them until he starts working on a political magazine is set in Greenwich Village, and the political magazine like really takes off and helps this candidate win. So it's about like the battle between idealism and cynicism. It's about like asking like, what is the role of art? What is important? It was not the most pleasant reading experience just because there were so many parentheticals telling the actor how to perform it. And like, I find that annoying. So I am going to put that in the could category. Wow, the could is winning right now. We've got 3 left. All right, next up is the last play of the year. This one is Gruesome Playground Injuries. I loved this play. I think they're doing a version of it off Broadway right now with Nicholas Braun and Cara Young, I believe, is the other person. There's only two characters in this play. It's the story of a young man and a woman growing up together, and the guy keeps having gruesome injuries. Like he's just like that guy who is always breaking his collarbone, always like knocking out a tooth, always falling off of weird places. And it's so specific, but it's so human. And you're like, oh God, I know these people. I know these people. It's really touching, and tender, and beautiful, and sad. And even just from reading it and doing a scene from it, I'm like, I love this play. I thought about trying to make it to New York to see that, but I didn't. That's the end of the story. I just didn't. So if you get a chance to check it out wherever it's being performed, highly recommend it. So I'm gonna put it, but it's reading a play, so like it's hard to put reading a play in the should category. If we're talking about the production, going to see a production of it, maybe I'd put that in the should, but we're not. We're talking about reading, so going in the wood. All right, next up we've got My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. So this one kind of snuck up on me. I listened to the audiobook. It was a book that I've heard people talk about a lot for the past couple of years, and I also have heard it talked about as something that is in the lineage of the bell jar. So I was like, I'll check it out. I really enjoyed it. I think that like it almost feels like the author made a barroom bet of like, you know what? I bet I can make a protagonist so unlikable, so like privileged and mean and cruel and unrelatable and passive, and I can still make an interesting, compelling novel about it. And you know what? For my money, she succeeded in that bet. the protagonist of this book, who is never named, it's one of those, told in first person, so you never hear the person's name, is like just kind of a despicable person in a lot of ways. Like, she's dealing with a lot of trauma, so you understand where she's coming from, but she also just like treats the people in her life very, very poorly. She really has honestly, the only redeeming quality that she has is that she's really smart and she's great at calling out other people's bullshit, which goes a long way. But like, is that really a redeeming quality? I don't know. If you feel like you don't like characters who don't have some sort of thing about them that you can really pull for, then this is probably not the book for you. If you're okay to just kind of be along for the ride of just like, yeah, I'm just going to get in the head of this person who is being really, really mean and see where it goes, then you might enjoy it. So I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Am I recommending it? I'm going to put it in the could category. Okay, so that brings us to the final book of my year of reading and non-relaxation. So this book is The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. And it just happened to work out this way that the last book I read this year, well, I'm reading some other books. Maybe I'll finish before December 31st. Perhaps that happens. Perhaps I'll do that. But I'm recording the video right now. So this is it. This is the final book. And I loved it. I wrote a whole newsletter about it, about how much I love this book. It was funny. It was breathtakingly sad. It was so well observed of just like the minutia of people, of humans. So it's about a young man who is about to jump off a bridge, and as he's standing on the edge of the bridge, there's a woman who lives on the bank of the river. She sees him. She gets him to stop what he's doing. And he doesn't have anywhere to live. And she offers him a place to stay. And he takes her up on it. And it launches this like really touching friendship between this young man who is dealing with substance abuse issues and this old woman who is dealing with dementia. And it is just, God, it's so beautiful. It's so touching. I cried multiple times while reading it. I can't recommend it more. It's everything that I'm looking for in a book. And so for that, it is a should. And there we have it. There we have my little list. Yeah, I feel to some extent, I feel some imposter syndrome of like, well, I didn't read that many books. Can I really be making content about it when I, am putting up rookie numbers like that? And it's like, first of all, everything's relative. This is more books than I've read in years past. And so I think that's exciting. And also, like, I feel that for me, I would much rather take my time and savor some books and have a lower number at the end of the year than like breeze through a bunch of books, have a high number, but not really be able to remember anything about them. So I'm choosing to see this as like, look, this is a good start. I want to do more in the years ahead, but I also don't want to just make that the focus. Like, I want to be savoring. I want to be intentional. I want to read things that really make me stop and think. Like, I love that feeling of encountering an idea or a sentence or a phrase where you just have to like close the book and step back and like look into the middle distance and go, damn. Like, that happened a lot with The Emperor of Gladness. And so I want to find more books like that. But yeah, so luckily this year there was nothing in the should not tier. I didn't read anything that was so bad that I was like, shouldn't do it. So that's my list. If you've read some of these books and you feel differently, let me know. You can leave comments on the YouTube video. You can go to Shoulda Books Instagram page at Shoulda Books. This is the last episode of the year, and I'm really excited for what 2026 has in store for this podcast. We will be back on January 8th with the new weekly format of me bringing on a guest, asking them what are the 3 books you think everyone should read? That first guest is going to be Miles Bonsignore, January 8th. Check it out. And in January, we're going to be reading The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. I'm already 100 pages or so into this, and I'm loving it. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I can't wait to talk about it. So that episode is going to come out on January 31st. And until next time, I hope you have a lovely holiday, whichever one you're celebrating. I hope you get to spend time with the people you want to spend time with. And I hope you get a lot of reading done. Who knows, maybe I'll end up even cracking the 20s in the weeks ahead before New Year's. That's probably not going to happen. But I think I could finish another book between now and the end of the new year, and maybe I'll make a little update video and let you know where it falls on the tier list. But anyway, thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for supporting the show. And until next time, keep reading.